We're working on the construction of a workstation here for a clip insertion job. In the previous video, we constructed the bench and the position it next to the stick figure for a 5 percentile female stature with average proportions. In this exercise, we want to go ahead and create our bins to hold the parts. In looking at this, though, I realized that the bin we actually have, or the bench we actually have in the wrong layer. The bench should be brown, so when I click on it and go to the properties window, I can see that it's actually in the reach layer. So let's make sure this is selected, and we'll just come down here and we'll type bench. Make sure it's in the bench layer. Okay, and that should do it for us. Come back here and hit return, get out of that, and it didn't take, so we'll do it again. Bench, okay, and come back here, turn. Okay, and we're on a bench. You can see it kind of hides our layers here, but if we just hide the worker and bring the worker back, she pops back up there. Okay, so let's go ahead and create our bins, and let's make sure we get them in the right layer this time. So we'll go bins, create a layer called bins. All right, and we'll make that layer active. And we'll go ahead and make our bins gray because they're actually the color of metal. It's arbitrary where we put them. I'm just going to start out making a footprint of the bin and put it on the end of the bench here. If you looked at the instructions, we were told that the benches actually are 11 by 21 centimeters on the bottom and 11.5 by 21.5 at the top, so that makes it easier to empty things out of the bin. So we'll start putting the bottom dimension. I'm just going to kind of start here at the corner of this bench and just come out here, and again it's going to be 11 by 21, 2, 1. Okay, so there's the footprint of my bench. And at this point now, I'm going to go back and just hide this other stuff because it's kind of in my way. Oops. Escape, go to the bins layer. I just talked about, let's see, I got this bins is active, so I should be able to hide bench, should be able to hide the worker, and let's hide the reach. And now I can move this into the center and zoom in on a little bit so I can see better what I'm doing. Now, there's going to be, so this is the bottom, but as I indicated, the top is a little bigger, and actually the top, is 0.5 centimeters wider and 0.5 centimeters longer. So that translates to 0.25 centimeters on each side. So I'm going to use the offset tool and offset tool. Set and type offset. I have to specify the distance, so I'm going to put 0.25 centimeters. Now select the object to offset, so I'll select the frame here, and I'll just pull my cursor out away from it so it put it on the outside. Now it shows 0.3, but that's just because I told it to round my dimensions off to the nearest 0.3 centimeters. But since we are working with 0.5 centimeters, let's just change our units precision here for the temporarily. Units, prevent any confusion, and we'll go to 2 decimal places of precision. Okay, oops, I'll try this again. Offset should still be set to, I'll put 0.25. Select the object, come off to the side, click. Okay, and that looks good. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is, well, I'll show you. Let me just show you real quickly how to make a quick and easy bin. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move. I'm going to use move, and I'm going to grab the outer line, type return, check an arbitrary reference point, and I'm going to move it up to the specified height of 7 centimeters. Okay, now I've got an outline at the bottom, and I got an outline at the top. Now there's a cool command called loft, L-O-F-T, and it says select the cross-sectional area in the order of lofting. So I'll start down here with the bottom one, and then I'll take the top one, and you can see right away it fills in all those surfaces for me. And I'll just type return, to tell it I'm done. Actually, I've got to return twice. Now it also okay, so there you can see that. And this might show up a little better if I go to a, let's go to a shaded surfaces with edges. Now you notice that it also fills in the top. So I can just click on that top. Let's see, can I click on the top? Nope, it's going to click on the whole thing. So let's select this and let's type explode. Okay, and now I can click on the top and I can just type to select it. I can type erase, and now I've got a box. Now I might want to come back and regroup these after I've removed that top so they don't come apart. But for practical purposes, this will suit our needs adequately for many applications. Now, I've made this exercise a little more difficult for you in that I've asked you to roll the edges on the top. And the reason for that is that when you reach into the box, you don't want to be rubbing your hand against that sharp edge. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo this, and we'll go back to this, where we had our outline of the bottom and the outline of the top. And what I'm going to do is make another offset to designate where that, what the effect of the roll will be. So I'm going to go offset. Now it should still remember offset's distance is 2, but I'm going to put 0.2, or it should still remember it's 0.25, but I'm going to put 0.25 again here just in case I forgot it or changed it. Now I'll select the outer object, and I'll come out and I'll make another one. Now what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to actually put a circle here to represent the cross section. So I'm going to get the circle tool. Let's zoom in on this a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. And I'll just arbitrarily put this in the center. And I'll come out here, and I can use the midpoint of the adjacent line to determine my radius of 0.25. And that's what the cross section will look like. So now let's, we basically have the tool we need to make our offset, but I'm going to, before I actually make that roll, I'm going to go ahead and make the top of or I'm going to make the sides of the box the same way I did before using the loft command. But this time, instead of bringing it all the way up to 7 centimeters, I'm going to bring it up to 6.75 centimeters, because when I put that roll around the top, it's going to increase the height a little bit. Okay, so let's go move. Okay, and again, I'll select this inner one here, and I will select an arbitrary point, zoom out here so I can find a corner point or something, and we'll just move this up here in the vertical direction, 6.75, and up it goes. Okay, so I can now use my, oops, I guess that didn't go up. Let's do it again. Zoom out a little bit so I can see what I'm doing better. So let's go move. Make sure I get the inner outline. This guy. Select that object, get a corner, move it up in the vertical direction, 6.75. Oops, 75, not 74. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay, that looks good. Now I can just use my loft command. I'll select the bottom and the top, and voila, I've got my top and bottom. I have to hit return twice so it selects everything. And I'm going to type explode. And I can take out the top. And so I got the sides and box, but it's a little bit shorter this time because I'm going to allow room for that roll I'm going to put in there. So now let's go back and look at that roll. I'm going to zoom in on this, or where I started to do this. Now I've got the cross section here, but what I'm going to need to do is rotate this so I can actually use the sweep command and create a essentially a ring around the top of this that has the prescribed cross section. And then I can move that up 0.675 and I'll have my box with a rim around it with that roll. Okay, so to rotate this, I'm going to have to use user coordinates because remember it rotates around the z-axis. So let's go over here and get new USC, and I will just start in this direction. I want to make sure Z ends up, and this will probably, let's see, that would be good. X and Y. Okay, so that, oops, it's going to be just a little bit squirrely. Okay, now I got it. Okay, so there's my z-axis that's cuts, the axis is going to go through parallel with the axis I want to rotate about. So let's zoom in on the circle here now, and let's go rotate. I'll select the circle, return, specify the base point. We'll take the midpoint of that line, and there we are. It's rotated. Now, what I'll do to make my rim is I'm going to use sweep. It's W-E-P. I'm going to select the object that I want to sweep with, which will be my circle. Type return. Now I have to specify a path. It's going to be that rim around the outside. Now let's zoom out a little bit. We should have our circle there. That looks good. So now let's move that up to the top of the bin. So I'm going to type move. Select this object. Now specify a base point. I can take any point on this object, or anywhere, because I'm just going to arbitrarily move it up 6.75 centimeters. So I'll just kind of pull this up way up here so I know I'm going in the right direction. And I'll type 6.75. Okay, and that should give me the box, my bin with a rim on it. See how that looks. Okay, not too bad. So let's come back here and do a realistic with edges. Okay, there, now you can see the edges a little bit better. Okay, so let's bring this back now to remember to bring this back to a world coordinate system. And let's go ahead and make this a block, or W block, so we can insert in other places. So I'm going to type W block. Something like this. We'll select our objects. So it's going to be all of these guys. Okay, we got those. Done selecting. Now select a base point. Actually, we'll make sure we retain the objects. Pick a point. Now again, I'm just going to arbitrarily choose this corner of the box. And now we'll write the block, and we'll call this something creative. How about bin? Oops, I got one already, but that's okay. Well, I'll just replace that. Okay, so there's my bin. Let's zoom out a little bit here and see what this looks like with the bench. So here's my bench. So now what we need to do is arrange these bins in the places where they're going to be used. Now, if I go back to the workstation that I showed you, see if I can find that. Okay, essentially what we have are bins, one on the right, one on the left. The one on the right holds the clips, one on the left holds the cards, and then one on top to hold the cards as we put the clips on them. So let's hide this, and we'll go back to our bin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create or construct a square here in the middle of the bench that I can just use to arrange my bins. So I'm just going to get the rectangle tool, and I'm going to come here to the top of my bin, and I'll find the midpoint of this side. And the bins are, with that rim on them, are going to have a dimension of about 11.75 by 12.75. So I'm just going to round that off to 12 by 22. 2, comma, 2, what did I say? 2, 2, okay. no, excuse me. I'm going to make it 22 by 22. Do this again. My rectangle tool. Find that midpoint of this edge. I'll tell you what, I'll just come over here and put it in the corner. That's a little more definitive. Okay, let's come in here and make this 22. I'm making the edges of this correspond to the long edges of the bins. Okay, so there's my reference point, and let me now move that to the center of the bench. So I'm going to use move, select the rectangle I just created, return. Let's find the midpoint of one side, and I'll zoom out a little bit on this so I can come down here and find the midpoint of this edge, which appears to be right there. Okay, so I can use that to align my bins. So what I can do is come down here and, oops, let's copy the bin. Let's I'll tell you what, let me hide the bench for just a sec. And I'm going to make this bin here a group, so I keep it all together. Don't we all wish it was so easy to keep everything all together? Just make it a group. So let's see. Go back and show our bench. Okay. Now let's try this again. Move. So I'll select the bin. Oops, I selected the bench. The bin. Okay. Return. Now I'll zoom in a little bit, make sure I can get this lower corner, and I'll just put this right here on this corner. Oops, I went down. So I'm going to undo that, and there's a good lesson here. What I should do is make sure I've got my ortho commands on, so I'm just moving in one direction at a time. Okay, so we'll try this again. Grab my bin, get to this corner. Okay, now it's going to constrain. Nope. Don't have the ortho command on. Okay, now that should work better. Okay, now there you go. There. Now you notice you don't see a bottom in the bin, and that's probably because the bottom of the bin intersects with the top of the bench. So it actually you're seeing the bench to the bottom of the bin, and I think we can fix that if we just move this bin up, say 1 millimeter. Select the bin, grab it like this, and I'm going to move it upward, and we're going to move it upward we're working centimeters, so we'll move it up 0.1. There we go. And now it's a little bit above the bench, but we'd have some thickness for the bench, this material that bends anyway. So now it's where we want it. Okay, so now let's put a bin on the other side. So this time we'll use copy. I'll grab the bin, return, zoom in a little bit, and this time I'm going to use this corner as my reference point, and let's pan over here so I can see this, and I'll come up here and put this on this corner. Okay, and again you can see that because it put it on the surface, the bottom disappeared. Okay, and I'm going to put one more up here where I'm going to put the top. Okay, so now I've got 3 bins on the surface of the bench, and 2 of them are where I want them, but the third one needs to be reoriented. So I'm going to just use the rotate command to rotate this bin 90 degrees. Return. Let's use this, actually, well, we can use anywhere. Let's use the center point as the rotation point, and we'll just rotate, find it, something like that. Good. And now I can use my move tool again, grab the bin, return, and select that edge, come down here, find the midpoint here, and there are my 3 bins on the surface of the bench. So now let's come back here. I can show my reach limits. Now you'll notice that the reach limits here, based on what we just did, are actually below the surface of the bins are kind of outside of this. Remember, that was with the elbows at the side of the body reaching down, but the elbows are going to be a little bit higher here, so that's going to increase our reach. You know, we're still pretty good shape, and It's also acceptable for people to, flex their shoulders a little bit forward, maybe as much as 30 degrees. So they should have good access to this. All right, zoom out just a little bit there. And if you want to, you can show your worker there, something like that. And we're ready to start putting cards in the bin. We'll do that in the next exercise.